It's time for round two.
Spiky Bits.
Welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. I'm Rob Bear from SpikyBits.com, and today we are going to unbox and build Ghazghkull, Thraka, and Ragnar Blackmane, the main characters from March's Prophecy of the Wolf, or maybe it was April. Either way, the Prophecy of the Wolf bundle box set. Now, you may remember that box came out, and immediately everything shut down due to COVID, unfortunately. So here we are with them re-released in November of 2020. And normally right here, I would say, hey, you can get your miniatures for less from dicehead.com or Amazon or even your local game store. But things are a lot harder to find right now. And your local game store has been severely allocated to 2 copies of Ghazghkull and Ragnar. And the books, well, I think there's about 8 or so of them at each store. Interestingly enough, they're in stock over on Games Workshop's website. I wonder what that's all about. Well, let's take a look at that, and let's take a look at our unboxing build of both of these characters from March. Because if there's one thing I've learned from Games Workshop, there's no sense not reusing your content again and again. So here is a current live look at Games Workshop's website. As you can see, Ragnar Blackmane is in stock, ready to ship at $40 US. Now, I will be honest with you, a lot of retailers complained to me on Friday that they didn't get their Ragnar Blackmanes. They were just zeroed out on their invoice. Just no notification, no nothing, 0 Ragnar Blackmanes, even though they were allocated supposedly 2 of them. And it's really interesting, or maybe it's not interesting, maybe you don't care and you just want to look at Ragnar. But either way, here he is, available to order from Games Workshop right now. Very interesting. Well, as I'm about to show you in our content from March, Ragnar is basically a 1 sprue kit right here that goes together actually pretty decently from what I remember. I don't remember having any problems with it, and he's got a really dope base, so he can just glue right down to your 40mm base. And then here's a look at him compared up to Ghazghkull, and he's a very dynamic model for sure, and looks great, and he does the Wolf Lord proud for sure. But obviously there's some other stuff going on in the world right now, right? Let's take a look at Ghazghkull. And here's Ghazghkull Thraka. Now, he is a $65 kit. I actually thought he was going to be about a $70 kit. I think that's the value we put on him when we did our breakdown of the Prophecy of the Wolf. So it's kind of cool to always see stuff come in less than kind of what we might have expected it, or at least me in my mind. It is a 2-figure kit. You do get Makari, or Makari, whatever you want to call him, potato at this point. And there is a little bit of variation with his gun. You can kind of assemble it one of 2 different ways. Now, it is a bigger, chunkier kind of sprue. And as I'm going to show you, there's a little bit more to this kit that you can actually do posability-wise than you're really able to tell at the onset. So with that being said, let's jump right into it and get to our unbox and build of Ragnar Blackmane and Ghazghkull Thraka. First up is Ragnar Blackmane. Now, as far as the instructions go, it looks pretty standard. Like, as far as, Primaris, usually their pauldrons, or not their pauldrons, their greaves right here are a separate piece, but he's very dynamic, and even the base itself is 2 pieces here. So that's kind of interesting to see. And then he just assembled a torso. Standard arms. Now, there's probably going to be some wicked mold lines right to here if I had to guess. But then the cape is really interesting because there's this sliver of a cape over here, then this 3-dimensional kind of wolf head swoosh over here, which is really interesting to see. So I'm not sure how that's all going to go together, but hopefully they kind of figured that out, because GW is really good at hiding the mold lines and kind of making pieces kind of go together where it wouldn't be quite as obvious about what's going on. But then you can see right here, he assembles right onto the base, and he's got his best serving tennis pose right there. Then he goes into the Infiltrator squad, which really isn't nothing any new, and then Ghazghkull Thraka himself. Now, Gaz is kind of an interesting model, because here, let me just show you the sprue real quick. He's literally a sprue kit himself. Like, if you buy stuff, I think there's a Tyrannid, I think it's like the Trigon or one of the Tyranids It's only this many. It's literally one sprue like this, and it's, I think, $70 now. So I'm really concerned that this is going to be literally a $70 kit, like we've been saying. First it was 60. Now I kind of think it's 70, because that's a lot of sprue, and generally G-Dub likes to get a lot for those type of sprues. So as far as this leg goes, legs are kind of slices. Torso itself is a little bit of a slice, and then you kind of got to thread the head into there, and the left slice going onto the torso. On the back here, left and right, or excuse me, front and back section right there, he actually has a little old-timey crank. And this thing here, I don't know what this is. Is that his oil filter? I don't know. The flux capacitor. Who knows what's going on right there? And then you build out his backpack and all the wiring and everything. And then you've got some options when it comes to his gun, his new gun over here, Orks Roar. Like, you can put the ammo belts on there if you want, or actually that's not this part right here. This is actually the ammo itself that is part of the bits. You can build up the shoulder pads, build up the blades on the arm, which is actually 3 kind of like Wolverine claws, which is really cool to see. And then the wires and everything go together. Nothing kind of out of the ordinary. We saw a lot of this with Chaos bits right there. Now, if you want to swap the pose, it looks like the base actually flips around, which we didn't really see any of this in the previews. We saw this, but we didn't see any of this. So it looks like just the interior head right there is different, and then this is the same piece. It's just flipped around. So you've got, you want to build part 45 and the head bits are the same, or you use part 46 depending on which way he wants to look. I suppose you could have him looking this way if you really want to, but the action pose is this way, so maybe you just want to go with this. And then they give you the orientation of the base, so it's the same base, you just flip it around to kind of do a different thing. And as far as I can tell, it's the same. There's no additional instructions in here for this, so it's just going to be the same dude, just kind of posed differently and looking a different way, which is kind of cool that they're building that extra value in, because normally when you get these special characters, they come one way and you can't, they're just kind of locked in. And if you're spending that much money on what it looks to be, you know, when you look at the sprue, it comes with Ghazghkull and Makari, so chances are this is going to be a little bit of an expensive kit. So it's good to see that they're doing some sort of alternate pose right here, so you can kind of do 2 different ways. Me personally, I think maybe assembling him as a generic war boss of some sorts with a different arm, but then that probably wouldn't fit on the sprue, although maybe they could have done it without Makari. I'm not really sure, but it's just something to think about. And then Makari goes together, super simple, basically top and bottom of a grot, and then the big banner right there, and a little basing bit. So he goes on the 25, so it looks like all the grots go on 25mm bases right there. Oh, and then you finish it up right here with his little feetsy piggies. So everything seems to go together pretty much left and right halves, or front and back halves. And from what I can tell, it looks like it's going to be semi-hidden over top of things. So we'll find out here in a second. So first up is going to be Ragnar, and here you can see he's the normal character size sprue. It isn't that big chungus. He's basically 4 of these fit on the Ghazghkull sprue, just to give you an idea of exactly how big Ghazghkull really is when it comes down to parts and his actual length and girth. So Ragnar, a whole lot of stuff going on right here. You can see lots of good detail in the fur, lots of good detail in the his sword right here. What is that? Rune Fang? I forget what that's called. Then he's got the 2 bits of the base, and one is connected. I thought one was connected to his feetsies somewhere. Maybe. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's connected to the feet right there. He's got the hand out, and I like how he's got these little talons on his actual feet. Where are they? I just saw them. There's like that separate bit. There it is right there. So that's actually a separate bit. Now it looks like this is part of this cape with that swoosh right there, and then he's got the standard, you know, kind of wolfy looking backpack right there. Cool looking head, and this looks like he's got a butt piece. How did I overlook that? So he's got the butt piece, there's his greaves, and everything connects into there. So at first glance, I'm interested to see how this goes together, because it almost looks like it will form kind of like a 3D model kind of dynamic sandwich. And here he is all assembled. So GW really likes their textured bases here, and I didn't realize there was an orc skull on the base too, which is kind of cool to see. So he's got that really dynamic kind of posing going on right there. Now, a lot of crazy mold lines on this, so be very careful of your mold lines. I left a majority of them. I just kind of took the burrs off here. So you can kind of see that there's a mold line going on right here. on right here, and then they kind of work up his legs and around all the way up the sword even, and then you've got like these weird ones on the back. Now some of them get covered up, like some of them on the shoulder pad get covered up, but then you got this really weird one on his hand right there at the head and everything. So you know, besides that, if as long as you can get by that, and then here's where the cape actually attaches itself. It's kind of hard to see under here. You could probably plug it up using some super thin glue, like the Tamiya super thin we use here. But look at that interface right there. You can't hardly tell that that's a separate piece. So I really like the design on that. And then, like I said, with the little wolf head over here, the wolf cloak, everything is very dynamic, and it's almost like it did make a 3D sandwich between the cape, the little wolf tail talisman in here. I think there's a grenade or a pouch in there, I forget. And then you've got his stuff that actually connects here. Now, this I did a really poor job on. Unfortunately, I didn't notice that there was such a big gap right there, but that could have easily been prevented. And then this, it locks into there and also locks into here. So it gives them a really dynamic feel. The model itself is pretty cool, and it's got lots of detail. Now, if you were going to paint the cloak and things separate and then put the shoulder pad, or you could even keep the two shoulder pads off, keep the backpack off if you wanted to. But this is a separate piece to this, and then this piece right here is also separate. So you could, in theory, paint the armor and then airbrush like and do all the wolf cloak detail, but you will have to glue it on. But for the most part, your glue spots wouldn't be seen because they're going to be underneath the pad, underneath the backpack. But you want to make sure that you glue this part together right here as well. Up here, you'd probably be okay. Just, you know, watch that gap right there, like I did not. But everything else goes together, and he's got a really cool looking pose. I'm definitely kind of feeling this model, and here's how he compares. Well, here, we'll do it to one of our Iron Warrior Primaris intercessors right here. So you can actually, I think he's an infiltrator. I can't even keep them all straight anymore. But yep, he's pretty much about the same size, but you can tell he is definitely large and in charge. Like I said, Ghazghkull. Ghazghkull's a big model. He's got a lot going on here. And of course, this is actually two models because you got Makari that comes on this as well. So you can see there is indeed only one version of his armor, only one version of the base. The only thing that's different is his head, well, his head sockets, which are on that right here. These are the two different head sockets, and there's like either you can do the ammo coming out or the little smoky wisps, which are kind of out here on the flanks. So all your options are kind of around the flanks, but everything else, you know, once you start taking a look at it, it's really well detailed as far as like three-dimensional like kind of posability and things. I mean, his mouth, his head, everything's kind of got a lot going on here, even his toes on the front. So these actually remind me of the Morkanaut, the way they did the Gorkanaut and the Morkanaut front toes, I believe they were. But yeah, I mean, this is very interesting, and it's very ambitious on Games Workshop's part, I feel like. So you can kind of see the bigger chunks that are going to go together, but it's really hard to kind of tell what everything is until you just kind of start assembling that, because remember, everything's going to have that front and the back and kind of like the left and the right feel right here. But you can definitely tell about how big his pistons are just from these right here, and then there's his backpack as well, and I'm sure his skull's probably easy to find. Yeah, we'll get it together. And here he is, the big Chungus himself. So he is on an 80mm base. Remember, you can always put a little bit of texture here, like Vallejo Pumice or something like. You can even use the G-Dub stuff, but you want to make sure you build up enough to kind of make it smooth and kind of taper it all together right there. But other than that, I mean, you can tell this guy is chock full of detail. Like, there's a lot going on in the back here with the pistons. And remember how like the legs and everything were all positioned. Like, it's an assembly on top of assembly that hides a lot of the gaps and a lot of the mold lines. And there's a little old-timey crank back here that I guess Makari has to like kind of Yoda flip up here and then kind of turn on. And he's kind of cool too. Like, he's got, you know, the banners all pretty much done up, and then you can do some different glyphs or whatever you want on the little bottom right here. But he's, you know, standing on a little helm and doing his little Thug Thizzle kind of old school look to him right there, like very old, kind of Goblin Wolf Rider kind of look from the 80s, and I definitely like that. I appreciate GW kind of doing the throwbacks there sometimes. So here is the rest of the model. Like you can tell, lots of detail work going on with these claws. It's pretty nuts. And of course he has a thumb, and then his main little, I guess these are his horns up here. And then you've got stick bombs and things, and now his brand new hot rod custom Texas Longhorn skull up there. It's very cool looking, and he's got his gun and everything. We didn't put the little fiddly bits on there, but I think if you do the ejected shells, they go out this way, and if you do the wisp of smoke, they kind of go up this way. So just watch out for the gap right here in the front. It's actually not that bad, and it looks worse in the camera than it is just looking at the model right here. So I'm sure with a little paint that'll be fine. But man, it's crazy how much. I mean, you can just see like there's you know, strap, and then joint, and then arm, and then in here you've got, you know, claws or armor claws, main claws. You got little gears down in there that you can see. So they really did a lot of work on this model. And I guess, you know, that's pretty much why it takes up so much space on the actual sprue itself. So for the most part, everything's kind of hidden. You can see a few gaps, of course, but you know, when you start looking at the model at different angles, you probably wouldn't see them. But always use, you know, you can make things work with your super thin Tamiya glue, or of course just using a little Vallejo plastic plate too generally can kind of help right there. And then of course he's on a normal pose, but you can flip that around and put him over here and have him looking the other way with those other bits that we talked about earlier. So how big is he? Well, this is a 25 mil base. So he is definitely very big compared to that. So as far as other orcs go, I have one other orc model here of note. So you may remember at Lug Nuts here that Stiff Neck Studios painted up for a showcase for us a while back, and there's Ghazghkull looking small next to the Gorkanaut and or possibly Morkanaut. I forget which is which. So he's on 170 millimeter oval base. Gaz is on an 80 round base. So you can see there that he does, you know, he kind of comes up to the belly right there. But you know, as far as other models go, I think you can probably tell exactly how big he's going to tower over most other things. I imagine he's bigger than a truck, or almost as big as a truck. And as far as the battle wagon goes, also probably getting very close to at least halfway up, if not 3/4 of the way up a battle wagon right there. And as far as models go, well, he's going to tower over those for sure. So that's it for this one, folks. Thank you very much for watching our unbox and build of Ghazghkull Thraka. Yes, we reused footage from earlier in the year, but there was no way I was going to go down to my local game store and take one of those kits away from another hobbyist, or take potential revenue away from my local game store, when, you know, it's all we can do right now to just keep game stores in business in general, in my humble opinion. But maybe that's why you're here, maybe not. Either way, I hope you enjoyed your video. Thank you very much for watching. Please hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you can be the very first to like and comment on all our videos.